Okay, it's 12 noon, June 5th, 2023. This is a regular assembly meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
David,
Here.
Mark,
Here.
Donna,
Here.
Bob,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Jeff,
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a full assembly today. It's time for the voluntary pledge of allegiance. Public. Okay, next item on today's agenda is approval of minutes. I need a motion to approve the minutes from May 15th, 2023.
Second.
No proposed changes or corrections. All those in favor of approval, say aye. 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 Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Today's meeting agenda. Is there any amendments, or if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve as presented. Member Marsh.
I would like to make a motion, add a motion to approve the request from the mayor to move the meetings from Mondays to Thursdays for the summer.
Okay, second to that, the motion. Can we do that? Can we take an action item off of a report, or does that have to be put on the next agenda so it's advertised properly, proper notice?
What do you think, Steve?
Good. During that time or assembly discussion items or something. Okay, thank you, Member Marsh. So if there's no other proposed amendments, Member Kinsinger.
Yes, I'm under assembly discussion items. I'm going to give a brief update on the housing survey.
Okay, so we will just add that to the agenda, and if I forget,
Okay.
bring it up. Okay, if there's no other proposed amendments, I'd entertain a motion to approve today's meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll move forward with no, just one amendment, I guess. There are no public hearings today, no bid awards. That brings us to item 7, which is persons to be heard related to items on today's agenda. So if there's anybody that would like to speak, please step forward, state your name. There is a 5-minute time limit, but
I'm R.D. Parks, and I'm speaking for myself, my wife Madonna Judge Parks, and our daughter Molly Parks. Assembly members and Mayor Jensen, we are encouraged to see under item 15, new business action item A, hiring practices and safety programs review. It reads as, at the May 2nd, 2023 meeting, the Assembly directed Borough Attorney Heidemann and Borough Clerk Thompson to solicit proposals for a review of and recommendations regarding borough hiring practices and safety programs. 3 proposals were sought, 1 from Beacon Occupational Health and Safety Services, Incorporated, Beacon, 1 from the Safety Specialists, TSS, and 1 from Alaska Public Entity Insurance, APEI. TSS could not provide a proposal within the time available. Of the 2 proposals, APEI checks most of the boxes for an enhanced safety environment in the borough. The APEI proposal would supply an objective and comprehensive assessment that would be of great benefit to the borough employees as well as its citizens. It also addresses ADA concerns. The assessment is cost-free, and APEI will have a report to the Assembly within a timely 60 days. We appreciate that the borough is taking this step. We cannot stress enough that the safety should be the #1 concern and responsibility of every borough employee. Creating a safety environment where there are clear plans, roles, and responsibilities in place will stop an utterly preventable tragedy such as July 4th, 2016 from ever happening in the future. Let's paint that picture again. Creating a safety environment where there are clear plans, roles, and responsibilities in place will stop a totally preventable tragedy such as July 4th, 2016 from ever happening again. You have the power to make that happen. We hope you will support the selection of APEI and their proposal. Respectfully, RD and Madonna Parks, parents of Molly Parks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your testimony today. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on items on today's agenda?
Good afternoon, Chris Morrison, Tribal Council President, Petersburg Indian Association. In anticipation of a third unanimous vote to approve ordinance 2023-10, I would like to thank the Assembly for its support throughout this process and let you know what I anticipate will be PIA's next steps. The Tribal Council will develop a proposal for the conveyance of 4 lots on North 8th Street for the purpose of constructing residential rental units. The proposal will be presented to the borough for consideration and hopefully subsequent approval. The subject lots are zoned multifamily residential, and although there has been no decision as to the exact format for the rental units, I will be advocating for a single-story apartment building in addition to several duplexes. Once the Tribal Council has approved the vision for those properties, a conceptual drawing will be developed and available for the public to view. From there on out, it's all about remaining diligent in pursuit of the objective, which is to provide safe and affordable rental housing to Native and non-Native members of this community. The housing development project will benefit PIA by generating discretionary funds that can be used to enhance its current services and programs and develop new ones that are free from constraints that typically accompany grant funding. The project will benefit the citizens of Petersburg by providing some relief with regard to the current housing shortage, which will also positively impact Petersburg's ability to maintain or increase its local labor pool. I'd like to express my appreciation to borough staff and the Assembly for the demonstrated willingness and desire to work with PIA in a manner that will benefit both governments and our respective constituents. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you for your testimony today. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to testify or talk under views related to today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item. First, I'll recognize Clerk Thompson. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming in fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, item 8, persons to be heard on items unrelated to today's agenda. Is there anybody that would be willing to speak under this or has something to talk about? Unrelated. So, seeing none, we'll move to item 8. No items under board, commission, and committee reports. Brings us to item 10. There's no consent agenda items. Excuse me. Item 11, report of other officers. We have CEO Hofstadter here from the Petersburg Medical Center.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. I submitted my written report and that highlights some of the activities that Petersburg Medical Center is doing. A couple of things to pull out from the report. One is our annual PMC Foundation Paddle Battle, which is now Pedal and Paddle opportunities for July 29th, and that's our fundraiser for through the foundation, and it's really to provide scholarships for the community and advance professional education within PMC employment. The second thing that I'd like to pull out was the open house last month, really successful. I feel like that we really had a high level of turnout within the community. And it seems like that is the successful model where we're able to provide a good day, 8 hours for opportunities for the community to come in and more in a non-structured manner to be able to talk with the architects, subject matter experts in our facility and myself. And so I felt like that was very successful, and I feel like we're going to replicate that as the project completes its phases. So great feedback from the community, and we're able to take that and bring it to our steering committee. The third thing I'd like to note, which wasn't in the report, it's I guess hot off the presses. June 1st, there was an announcement that the Center for Medicare and Medicaid, which is our regulatory body, has removed the vaccine mandate for healthcare workers. So we anticipate following that suit on that. So that's a bit of newer news that's not in our report. And that's all I had. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hofstadter. Any questions of Mr. Hofstadter today? Seeing none, thank you for your report. Yeah, that brings us to the mayor's report. I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Little Norway Festival Planning Committee for another fun-filled Mayfest celebration. Good job. And we have nice weather. There was a few unexpected or last-minute visitors came to town to stayed at my house. It was Josh Reback and his wife Marta. Josh is the state director for Representative Peltola. He was in town for 3 days and he circulated around through town. At the last minute, he didn't really have a schedule, but I introduced him to Liz Cabrera, our economic development director, and he met with some fishermen and mingled around downtown, introduced himself, and expects that he will be coming back to have a more formal meeting with folks in Petersburg. And Senator Stedman and his wife Lorene were here for a few days, taking a breath after the legislative session and enjoying the weather as well. Just wanted to mention that salmon season starts on the 18th and gillnet openings are every Sunday through Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday. And so I won't be attending meetings unless it's the will of the assembly to move the meetings to a different day of the week, first and third week of every month through the summer. I didn't put it on as an action item. I did that last year and it didn't get any traction. So I just thought I'd give everybody a heads up that I'm on the same schedule. So we'll see what happens. So if I don't attend, it's not that I'm not interested in the Petersburg borough, but I'm sure people that are still here will do a good job. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to the manager.
Thank you, sir. Mayfest was problem-free for law enforcement. We had a few calls, but nothing related to Mayfest. Thank you to all who enjoyed the festivities responsibly. SART track kit training was completed by all police department members. This is a new tracking tool for all sexual assault kits and how they're handled by the police department. One new dispatcher was hired, leaving just one dispatcher and a chief dispatcher position open. Congratulations to the library. They've been awarded a tier 1 grant for $23,000 from the Rasmussen Foundation to purchase a copy machine and expand collections, books, and DVDs. Our library summer program started June 4th. There will be programs for all ages. Visit psglib.org. Harbor parking is being enforced along Harbor Way in the Middle South Harbor and the drive down. A reminder to all boaters of the no-wake zone outside the 3 harbors, this will be enforced. Aaron and Chris are finalizing contract details for the borough's upcoming household hazardous waste event. Is tentatively scheduled for the weekend of June 24th. Once the contract and schedule are finalized, we will start advertising for the event. On May 23rd, ADEC conducted an inspection of Petersburg's landfill and solid waste baling facility. Although we do not have the official report in hand yet, ADEC has told us that we passed the inspection. Thanks to Aaron and the crew for keeping things shipshape. With our waste shipment and disposal costs set to increase sharply later this summer, we continue to investigate options for solid waste disposal. A couple of the ideas we are exploring: partnering with PIA to help expand their composting program, which has the potential to divert more organic debris into the compost program and keep it out of the waste stream heading south. And we're also looking at potentially the reopening a portion of the borough's landfill to accept construction and demolition waste only. Household garbage would not be permitted. Accepting the construction and demolition waste is allowable under our current landfill permit and could be another option for reducing the volume of solid waste we ship south. We are analyzing the cost of operating the C&D shell. So, Parks and Rec crew are busy deep cleaning the facility during the closure. Focusing on the aquatic center, this includes repainting the leisure pool, scrubbing and repairing tiles, maintaining the in-pool lights, cleaning the lap pool, waxing the slide, and scouring the locker rooms. Community center was the center of attention when the pools are refilled, heating up, and chemicals are being balanced. During that close down, if the RV dump is needed, please leave a message at the community center and leave enough time for staff to receive and respond. We've got folks kind of all over the facility and not necessarily on the phones at the moment. Contractors are working on finalizing the fire repairs from 2020. Actually, I've been told they are complete. The boiler controllers were replaced, expansion tank and pump installations were all done and done during the closure to minimize the impact on the school and the communities. All turned out very, very well. So sewer line repair for the community center is currently out for bid. Closing date for that is June 16th. We had a pre-bid interested and the engineer on the call to answer questions, and Stephanie and her staff as well. Gym and racquetball floor refinishing will occur in July with a shutdown of those two areas for approximately 10 days. We were unable to schedule this during the annual cleaning and maintenance closure. The next Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 21st at 4 p.m. The public is invited. And Parks and Rec would like to thank all entities that assisted with creating another wonderful Little Norway Festival. This event requires efforts from many, and your efforts are greatly appreciated. Thank you to everyone. Water and wastewater staff welcomed Kobe Holder to our ranks on May 25th. Kobe is our newest operator, and we are happy to have him on board. Staff is working on cleaning the sedimentation basins ahead of the processing season. And we had MSI completing their work on the EMD 16 on May 12th. This unit is running during the SEPA shutdown. It's one of our big generators that they were working on. NC Machinery ran into a delay on the CAT 398 when they found that the turbocharger required replacement and it was not immediately available. Mechanics left town for a week and returned on May 30th with the part in hand. The work to install the turbo, clean the generator, and test the unit will take another 3 to 4 days. The department will be able to utilize the unit in the second half of the diesel run, so we're in good shape. McGee Constructors and the Dawson joint venture, our contractor for the Blind Slough Hydro project, successfully installed the penstock bypass on May 30th. All went well with the contractor's operation. Power and Light will operate the hydro through the diesel run and shut it down for the bulk of the contractor's work on June 12th. Congratulations to David Mazzella and Hillary Mazzella on the birth of their baby girl, Margot Victoria, born in Juneau on May 23rd. David is our apprentice lineman and Hillary works over at Parks Public Works. Assisted living, working with the hospital to have a meeting set up for some fall training and continue to work with hospital folks on helping us out with our Medicaid billing process. Thanks to hospital and Derek for the review of this, which has been successful at recouping additional Medicaid reimbursement for the borough. The new fire engine is scheduled to be completed June 9th. Ryan will fly down for the final inspection next week. The engine will then be sent to Oregon for outfitting and mounting of specialty equipment, then sent to Bellingham. We'll ride north on the ferry. We're kind of expecting it to be delivered sometime in August or September. And we'll definitely do an open house so everybody can see a brand new fire truck. Congratulations to Brock Martin and Sarah Wright for their promotion to fire lieutenant and EMS lieutenant respectively. And reminder, Wednesday, June 7th, the sirens will be tested at noon. And that's it, unless there's questions.
Any questions for the manager on his report? Okay, thank you, Manager Giesbert. It brings us to item 14, unfinished business. First item A, ordinance 2023-06. This is an ordinance updating various sections of chapter 14.08 of the municipal code entitled sewer utility. This is the third and final reading. If adopted in the third reading, the ordinance will change the fiscal year 2024 sewer utility rate increase from 3% to 6%. An annual rate review of the utility indicates this increase is needed to keep up with the increased cost and expenses to the borough. The Assembly unanimously approved this ordinance in its first two readings. I'd entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2023-06 in its third reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by member Mucci, seconded by member Kensinger. Any discussion? Clerk call the roll.
Scott,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-06 passes unanimously in its third and final reading. Next ordinance up today for its third reading is ordinance 2023-07. This is an ordinance amending sections 14.20.125, 14.20.250, and 14.20.380 of chapter 14.2 municipal harbors of the Petersburg Municipal Code to address liveaboards and other residential uses of vessels moored in the municipal harbors and to increase penalty for speeding or excessive wake. Adoption of this ordinance in three readings will update the liveaboard policy to allow no more than 10% of moored spaces to be utilized by liveaboard vessels. Also, prohibit commercial use of the harbor facilities for rental of vessels for residential purposes. And three, increase the penalty for speeding or excessive wake in the harbors from $50 to $200. I'd entertain a motion to approve this ordinance in its third and final reading.
Second.
Motion's been made by member Mucci, I believe, and seconded by member Marsh. Any discussion? Clerk call the roll.
David,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Bob, Jeff, Scott,
Yes.
Thomas, Donna. Thank you.
7 passes unanimously in its third and final reading, so no wake making in the harbor. Ordinance 2023-08, an ordinance adopting the budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. It's the third and final reading. This ordinance will set the Petersburg Borough budget for fiscal year 2024 if approved in three readings. In the second reading, the Assembly increased the appropriation to Mountain View Food Services to $42,800 using general fund reserves to cover that cost. Added to the option to use $40,000 appropriated for hiring a grant writer toward the application to acquire the Pappy's Landing facility from the state of Alaska, and added $12,000 from general fund reserves for snow plowing the side roads landing area.
Good.
Need a motion to approve ordinance 2023-08 in its third and final reading.
Second.
Motion been made by member Mucci, seconded by member Lim. Discussion. Member Kinsinger.
Yes, I'd like to make one amendment. That we make a motion to increase the property insurance in the FY24 budget to the amount of $48,800.
Discussion. Was this at the request of?
Yes, of the, of our finance director.
Discussion on this amendment. Member Marsh.
Yes, through the mayor, can we have more information on this so the public has a better idea?
Of course, and I'm going to defer to Jody for that.
Sure, and I might defer to Steve on that, because he was on the board of APEI. But basically, property insurance went up about 30%, and we only budgeted 10%. Liability and workers' comp fell under the 10%, but property insurance did not.
Through the mayor. So what we do when we put the budget together is we kind of estimate what we think these costs are going to be. And we do this amendment process if we get the numbers in before time to fill the budget. So in this case, we got those numbers back. They were higher than what we budgeted. So we wanted the assembly the opportunity to correct them in the budget before we move forward.
Thank you.
Question of the finance director. So where does the added money come from? Is that a general fund expense or does it come from each
No,
department?
so I had sent a breakdown, of course, everyone else can't see this, of what departments we're going to need to increase the property insurance numbers. So electric, it's going to be 15,600. Water, it's going to be 8,200, wastewater, 7,400, sanitation, 2,700, harbor, 1,500, elderly housing, 6,700, and assisted living, 6,700.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other discussion on ordinance 2023-08? Clerk, call the roll.
Jeff,
Oh, this is on the amendment. Excuse me. Yeah.
Jeff, Bob,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Donna, Thomas,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes. Okay, we've agreed to up the expense for the property insurance. Now we're back to the main motion as amended, and this is to adopt the budget for fiscal year July 2023 through June 1st or June 30th of 2024. Any other discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Jeff, Bob,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Donna, Thomas,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Scott. Thank you.
Hey, next ordinance up for its third and final reading is ordinance 2023-09. This is an ordinance repealing chapters 11.48, 11.52, 11.56, and 11.60 of the former City of Petersburg Code and the charter and Petersburg chapter 11.96 and amending sections 11.12, 0.040, 14.20.360, and 14.20.380. If approved in three readings, this will repeal old traffic and parking code, update parking restrictions in current borough code, and allow for harbor to enforce traffic and parking ordinances at borough harbor facilities, and establish a $25 penalty for parking in violation in harbor facilities. I'd entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance in its third reading.
Second.
Motion been made by member Mucci, seconded by member Marsh. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Mark,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, ordinance 2023-09 passes unanimously in its third and final reading. Brings us to ordinance 2023-10. An ordinance amending section 16.12.030A of chapter 16.12, acquisition and disposal of borough-owned lands of the Petersburg Municipal Code to add federally recognized tribes to the list of entities that may purchase borough property for less than assessed value if determined by the assembly to be in the best interest of the borough. I'd entertain a motion to approve this ordinance in its third and final reading.
Second.
Motion been made by member Mucci, seconded by member Newman. Discussion. Seeing none, clerk, call the roll.
Donna,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Jeff, Bob.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Ordinance 2023-10 passes unanimously as well. Item 15, new business. Item A, hiring practices and safety programs review. At the May 2nd, 2023 meeting, the Assembly directed Borough Attorney Heidemann and Borough Clerk Thompson to solicit proposals for a review of and recommendations regarding borough hiring practices and safety programs. These proposals were sought from Beacon Occupational Health and Safety Services, the Safety Specialists, and Alaska Public Entity Insurance, APEI. TSS could not provide a proposal within the time available, so we have two proposals before us today, one from Beacon and one from APEI. I would entertain a motion to decide which program fits the borough request best. Member Mucci.
I move to accept the.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by member Mucci, seconded by member Kinsinger to go with the APEI proposal. And just for the people listening and in the audience, there was a cost associated with the safety specialists, and it was around $7,000 depending on how detailed it ended up getting as they went through it. And public APEI, our insurance provider, there is no cost. So, and just reading through it, I felt it was the best proposal as well. So any other discussion? Member Lynn and then Member Marsh?
I have two additional motions I'd like to make to add to the API, and I'll take those one at a time. I'd like, first of all, that as part of this review, that any of our borough employees can contact and talk with that team that's going to do the review at any time during the time they're here,
That's in the form of a motion to
in the form of a
add
motion.
to it. Is there a second? Okay, discussion on that.
And the reason I put that is that our employees are important, and if they have ideas for changes or if they have concerns, I think this is an excellent time for them to be able to talk with, people that are doing the review, and we can, through the process, there can be an evaluation and part of the conclusions on it. That's the reason I'd like to include it.
That language. You want to include the language where the employees can communicate
Yes,
with.
I want to make
APEI.
sure that the employees have a chance to do it,
Okay.
yes.
Any other discussion on that amendment? Clerk, call the roll.
Thomas,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Donna, Mark.
Yes. Okay, so that will be added in the language with the contract with APEI if we approve that contract. And you have one more.
I have one more, and thank you. I'd like to move that we have an assembly member or two that also is involved in the oversight to make sure that the review is done in such a way that meets the things that the assembly has asked for as part of this. I really do think there needs to be an assembly member that not part of the team, but at least is involved with being able to look at what's going on and that what's done meets the needs of, or meets the, what the assembly would like to have done. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, so the second amendment proposed by Member Lynn is to add an assembly member to be involved in this process for oversight, I guess.
That is correct. And the reason I also say that because some of the people who have testified before suggested that the assembly itself be more involved with the safety review, if you recall back. And that's the reason I'm proposing that. And I'm not saying who or what, or whether it's one or two, what have you, but I do think the assembly needs to be more involved.
Discussion? No, Member Marsh, sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate this motion. I guess my question would be, and I'm all for it, but my question is do we need to delineate some parameters that would assume this position of the assembly member or members? Or would they be more just an advisory or observer? Or I guess my thought would be to clarify the role of the assembly on this investigation.
Member Lynn?
Thank you. And I totally agree with you. I wanted discussion on it. And I think it more of an observation, but it involved, at part times as part of this. Or if the assembly would like to choose to go an alternative way, I'm totally open.
Okay, I would, I'm kind of on the fence about supporting this amendment just because I think when the APEI or whoever gets this project, approved to do this project for us, they'll come back with, the answers or their findings. And then at that point we could ask, well, did you look at this? Or, or why didn't you look at this option? Or so, but another thing we have to decide if this passes, who's going to be the assembly member. So, Member Newman.
I can appreciate the concept of a collaborative effort, but I feel like this is supposed to be an independent review. And so with that intent of what we're trying to do here is, I don't think I would support that.
Any other discussion on this amendment? Member Kensinger?
I don't see this as a bad idea. I think having another set of eyes and ears on it, and particularly if it's an assembly member, we could easily get updates while the process is ongoing. And I would also put my 2 cents in to that I'd like to see Bob if he's willing to be that representative.
Okay, so, can we just add that to the amendment? See if member Lynn would be, let's just do one thing at a time. Let's pass this amendment or not with a vote, and then we'll just decide if it passes, who's going to be the assembly member or members. So is there any other discussion on adding an assembly member to the third-party investigation? Clerk, call the roll.
Thomas,
No.
Scott,
No.
Jeff,
No.
Bob,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Donna, Mark,
No. Okay, so that amendment fails with a 4-3 vote, so we don't have to move forward past that. Now we need to, back to the main motion, the member Mucci made to support giving us to APEI. Is there any more discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Thomas,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Bob, David,
Yes.
Donna, Mark.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move forward with the APEI doing a third-party investigation, and just for people listening, once they start moving, they said they should have this done in 60 days. So that will be by the, in a couple months. Item B under new business, utility assistant director / project manager position request. Manager Giesprick requests to add a new department head level position, utility assistant director, project manager, work alongside utility director Hagerman, who plans to retire in the next few years, at an annual salary of approximately $105,000. This position will learn to manage capital projects and train in the administration of the electric, water, and wastewater departments, which will help mitigate the impact of losing valuable institutional knowledge when Mr. Hagerman does retire. So I'd entertain a motion to approve this position.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Made by member Mucci, seconded by member Lim. Discussion.
I gotta, yeah, thank you. I just have to question, how badly we need this position. Without a direct timeline of retirement of the utility director. When I weigh that against looking on the horizon with all these increased expenses with the school and the projects that we have, I mean, I just hate to add more burden to the borough. I mean, I just gotta say that.
Perhaps if we could hear from Mr. Hagerman, how he thinks this position might fit into your current management structure. I mean, is this something, I mean, granted, this is pitched as a bit of an investment in the future, but I mean, it seems like all the departments are probably understaffed to some extent. I mean, putting this position in now, would that be helpful? I mean, this might be $100,000 that would pay for itself in terms of added expertise or just having another brain on projects. What's your thoughts on that?
Sure, well, through the mayor. So this position, obviously Steve has been working on this, and the question of my retirement is it's coming, at least a couple of years away at this point. But one thing that I didn't factor in when I took this job as utility director is the amount of time needed to get the Pines Loop project going and get through that point. It's really eating up a lot of time. And there are a tremendous amount of other projects, as the assembly knows, in water and wastewater as well. We have a fairly large project in Pump Station 4 that is just getting going after a long hiatus during the pandemic. And there are lots of other projects. And so I see this position as a good addition in that we can start to push some projects out that really need to get done and that I don't have the time to do. Capital project management overall is time intensive, and managing people, personnel is time intensive, and there's only so much time in the day. So I think that this position would help the borough overall get some things accomplished. And of course, Steve's goal is to bring somebody along that can step into my shoes when I do retire in a couple of years or more. And so I think in that vein, it's a good hire as well. But ultimately, the decision is up to the assembly. And if the timing is right, that's this assembly's decision.
I'd like to add a little input. Before the meeting, I was talking to the manager about this, and his intention is when Mr. Hagerman does retire, 2, 3 years, whatever it is, this position will not be filled. There will not be an assistant for the utility director. And just a little history on this situation. When Power and Light Superintendent Joe Nelson retired, or was going to retire, it was voted in to just have Mr. Hagerman be the utility director and Mr. Cotta be public works director. So we actually eliminated one department head level job. And maybe that created more of a burden, combining all the utilities onto one person. But I guess, that's just my thought, but that's, just water under the bridge. We'll see. Remember, Lynn?
Thank you. My thought is that, being on the SEPA board and watching us trying to fill positions, if we start today, I think we'll be lucky to have that any position we want filled, if we're lucky, 6 months to a year down the road. I don't think we're even beginning to offer enough money. Watching some of the other positions and the director's positions. If you look at what the utility manager in Ketchikan makes and so forth. And so I'm totally in favor of this. I just question. I don't think you have to worry about being filled tomorrow. I think we're going to have a very, very hard time filling the position with the kind of people we want. And we may even have to end up growing our own. I got concerns the other way, not from the money standpoint, but finding somebody with the skills willing to come to Petersburg and could fill this kind of a position.
Just a quick comment. One thing that makes me a little nervous about this is it seems like it's about 2 years before you know whether someone is really ready to stay here permanently. So it's like a bit of a risk, I mean, even if you have a contract, say that, it's maybe a 5-year contract or something, I could see if, if they're not liking it after 2 years, that's not a person you would want to force to stay here. So, it's, I guess, just one of the inherent drawbacks of bringing in someone from outside, but, at the same time, there are a lot of benefits to that too, I understand.
And if I may, through the mayor, you're all hitting on the right pieces, which is it's a huge lead time. Meaning the way the market is today, we don't know if somebody internal is going to apply for this and is qualified. And we know if we go outside, it's going to be 6 months to a year is actually probably aggressive. We have a housing problem. So even if you find the right person, you've got to worry about where can they live. But a few years ago, the assembly asked me to create a succession plan and to, what do we do when some of these key people start to leave? Well, this is, we're seeing some of that. Debbie's retiring here pretty quick. Carl's announced he's leaving. And if we don't bring people in to backstop that, then we're going to have a big hole in how the operation runs. That's what this is all about. And yes, it's expensive. And yes, there's no guarantee of success. But that's kind of like with any hire. You're never sure you got the right person until it's either good or too late. And Carl brings it's not just his job, it's his institutional knowledge of the borough itself. He's been here forever, long time. And, sorry about that. But, you know, that's knowledge that needs to be passed on. And it would makes the borough a lot more effective if it can be passed on. And that's not going to happen by hiring, you know, when Carl finally says, okay, you know, we've reached the end of this 2-year period. And so now I'm leaving in a month. We're not going to be able to find somebody in a month. I mean, we'll be lucky, as was said, find somebody in a year. And we've got to start if we're going to do that. That's why this comes up now. Because it's not going to get any easier to fill that position and then give somebody enough time to learn the job and be in a position that they could take that role when Carl leaves. Anyway, that's where this comes from. It's all about succession planning and how do we keep the borough from having a big hit to the knowledge when it happens.
Yes, thank you. So again, my question is, do we have anybody in-house who we could train to that level of leadership at that point? And secondly, where are we going to come up with the money? That's a big one, not just the salary, but we've got the benefits package and it's complex.
Through the mayor, I can.
I have the same question as Member Marsh. Is each individual utility pay in to this position, and would that require an increase in rates?
So yes, the salaries are split up among the different utilities. So it's not just one utility that gets it. I'm going to speak kind of outside the question, but I'll come back to it, which is we already know that in Power and Light, it's likely almost every position over there is underpaid right now. We're seeing lineman positions. I mean, we're advertising for a lineman right now, offering a $15,000 relocation and a $15,000 hiring bonus, and we're not sure we'll get anybody. That's what's happening in that Power and Light world right now, which is, again, if you want somebody that knows the job, it's going to take a long time to get them here and a long time recruiting. Where does the money come from? It's an enterprise fund, which means when we go through, we're going to open negotiations with Power and Light for next year, since we're done with PMEA. And my guess is that'll have to be factored into a rate study and along with any positions that are added. So yeah, our utility costs are going to go up, and you know, we're facing it in cost of living and inflation everywhere. And it's going to hit the utilities as well. And in particular, Power and Light with the electrical side of it. Price tag just does. I mean, our linemen are making, they're the highest paid employees in the borough. They make, with overtime, they make more than Carl and I. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. In fact, it probably is going to get worse in that sense.
Do you have another question, Member Marsh? Or,
Oh, thank you.
Member Mucci?
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank the manager for getting this succession plan together. We've all seen the list of people who might be leaving, and we know we're missing folks from Power and Light, and other folks are leaving. And, you know, for me, it's always been difficult to look 4 or 5 years down the line and see where we were going to be. And this is a good step in trying to sort out how we replace key borough personnel when they decide to step away. And I applaud Mr. Hagerman for giving us a heads up. I mean, we stumbled around with the fire EMS when Sandy Dixon retired, and we left that. We didn't start that until that position was vacant, and that kind of left us in the lurch up there on the hill about who we were going to have sitting in there and how that went. And it took longer than it should have to kind of keep things squared away. And I applaud the manager for putting this forward, and I think this is a good step. I mean, not everybody's replaceable, obviously, but I mean, there's a lot of, like we said before, a lot of institutional knowledge that goes out at Power and Light and other utilities that Carl's the key component over there, and we need to transition to somebody different in an organized manner. And I'm also all in favor of this. So I just wanted to thank the manager for putting this out there for us.
No, I think it's a good idea. And if Carl is willing, could you explain what Forever is? What is your what's been your tenure at the Bureau?
Yeah, right. I'm in my 31st year of employment right now.
31 years working for the Bureau.
Yes,
So essentially most of your adult life.
what's all of it?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I agree. That is forever.
I had a lot more hair when I started.
Any more discussion on the utility assistant director request? Clerk, call the roll.
Bob,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, passes unanimously, so maybe we'll have a assistant in a year or 18 months or something.
And if I may, just added, and I didn't know that I said this well, this will get posted internally and externally at the same time. We'll give existing employees a chance to apply for it. They will go through the same interview process that we would bring somebody in from the outside. And we would, we treat it just like we would any of our other department heads from that perspective. So, which means the assembly has the right, you have to either approve my choice, our choice, or say no. So it does come back in front of the assembly to say, hey, Carl and I will come forward and say, we want this person to have this job. You guys get to say thumbs up or no. That's something I didn't say earlier.
Okay, that brings us to item 16, communications. There's a list of communications at our website. So if you're interested in seeing what people have been, love letters they've been writing us, you can find them there. Item 17, assembly discussion items. Member Kinzer wanted to add discussion on the housing survey.
Yes, I just wanted to remind everybody in the room, anybody that's listening on the radio, please take an opportunity to complete the housing survey. We all know we have a housing crisis in town. We have a consultant that's hired right now. We've gotten a pretty good response rate so far. People have asked me, well, I already have a house. Why do I need to fill it out? But what I want to emphasize is it doesn't matter whether you're living in a trailer or a $5 million mansion, if we have any of those here in town, if you're living on a boat, or if you're homeless. We want to know what your housing situation is and what do you think the borough specifically can do about it or not do about it. This is a good opportunity for you to let us know what do you think we need to do. I mean, there's a lot of ideas. I've heard tons of ideas, and some of them, quite frankly, are very interesting. Some of them, well, I'll just say, well, but that doesn't mean that somebody else might look at it and think that's a brilliant idea. So all around town, you'll notice flyer, it's got a QR code on it. Just scan the QR code, fill out the survey online. If you don't get verbose, you can do it in like 6 to 8 minutes. We just need as many people as possible to do it. If you're not comfortable using that, there's paper copies available here at the borough office, at the library, and then also at KFSK. So please fill it out as soon as possible. I also believe it also has gone out in this month's electrical bills. So when you get your electrical bill, it should be the QR code, and the access to that should be in there as well.
Okay, thank you. Assembly members have comments today on any topics. Seeing none. Recognitions, any recognitions today? Member Marsh.
Thank you. I'd like to give a word of thanks to everybody who has participated in making the Little Norway Festival a success. It's been mentioned a couple of times already, but I thought it was a great celebration, and it was awfully nice that the weather cooperated to add to a really nice event. So thank you to all.
I have to agree with Member Marsh's comment on Mayfest. It seems like town had more people in it than I can remember before, but it might have something to do with the 80-degree weather as well. So we need more of that. Is there any other recognitions? Member Fine Walsh.
Brief recognition, a local artist, Little Realist X, was just interviewed by our reporter here in the building, Shelby. And that story got picked up by Alaska Public Media and across the state has been broadcast. I heard people out in Dutch Harbor heard stories about, Little Realist. So that was great. Congratulations. And also congratulations to him. It's great to see some local talent recognized, statewide. So really happy to see that.
Okay, if there's no other recognitions. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. No one wants to leave. No one wants to, you know. That'd be a first.